Okay. Right. Hello, lads.
Hey.
This is the still working title, Puppet Productions Podcast.
Yep. The only podcast
with
where
your
we
hosts.
where we complain about the title for 3 episodes in a row.
Oh god, we're already on episode 3.
Yeah.
Jeez. That's how you know that we're gonna maybe commit. It's like normally, I don't know about you, George, but like when I'm working on something, I tend to find that like the first 2 are relatively easy to do, and then like you just sort of stop afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I sort of get
Like,
you.
it's kind of vague, I guess.
Yeah.
It's
I always find I manage to like churn out 3 of whatever, because like the human mind works in 3s. And like the 3 episode rule for shows, and yeah, it's like a recurring thing in psychology, I think. And speaking of psychology, I've got that game I wanted to play, the Jordan Peterson or Islamist Cleric game, where I read you quotes from the Jordan Peterson or Islamist Cleric Twitter account, and you have to guess who said it, and if you think it's Jordan Peterson, I'll try and defend it, because I'm generally in favour of a lot of the stuff he says, even when you're not. So, wanna try this?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't know it was an actual... I thought you would... When you described this before we started recording, I thought you meant that we were like doing a Jordan... You'd be pitching me this like RPG game where you play as Jordan Peterson or something.
Oh no, it hasn't got nearly that much thought put into it.
Oh, alright.
I probably should have vetted these a bit better before we started recording. But let's just...
Did you just jump in dicks first?
Yeah. Speaking of jumping in dicks first, the first quote was, "If women weren't so choosy, then rape would be unnecessary." So who said it? Jordan Peterson or an Islamist cleric?
That is Jordan Peterson, I'm gonna guess.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Did it even say?
Wait, is that actually true? I was just
it's like,
throwing shit out there.
The guy tags Jordan Peterson whenever it's true, I think.
Oh,
so that is a...
God damn it.
So now I need to like defend it. I guess it's like from the point of view of like a would-be rapist, that makes sense. If you're already inclined to rape, you would like probably be less so if women were like less choosy.
At the same time though, George, if you're the kind of guy who goes out raping, I don't think any sensible person would want to be with you anyway. Unless you like lied to them.
Yeah, well, I guess like
for some
maybe
reason...
being a rapist is like a slippery slope. Because I imagine that like you don't resort to rape after like your first rejection. It's like you kind of resort to it after like 50 rejections.
Hold on, I was doing a thing.
Okay.
Sorry, I should not have done that. I tapped my microphone because I was looking at Audacity, and it's like, oh no, the waves are really small. Why are they small?
That will look fun with the puppets. His jaw will go through the floor.
Oh god, yeah, it's just gonna like zoom down. I think it might just be because I'm talking a bit quietly.
That's fine.
But I don't know. It's the thing is that sure, women like anyone else are a bit choosy. But let me put it this way, George:
yeah.
The only people who really rape are people who are like just completely unlikable to begin with, and they don't. And also notice how they never like go after people that they find unattractive either. It's always like, so you don't hear about the morbidly obese person with a missing leg getting raped unless it was someone who was actually deranged.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's like the closest I've ever heard was like guys breaking into old ladies' homes and raping them, which is pretty grisly, I'm gonna be honest. So anyway, let's talk about the next quote, because I don't... This isn't a very PG topic.
No, but our podcast has never been really that PG. It's always been like PG in like tone and in terms of our speech and stuff, but not in subject matter. Because we're talking about like selling foreskins and stuff last time.
We're like the Family Guy of podcasts.
Yeah. Have we sworn yet?
Alright then, next.
Have we sworn yet on the podcast?
I'm almost certain we have, haven't we?
No. It's...
Well, now I'm going to be consciously aware of it.
Oh.
We should avoid swearing.
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
We have to keep it clean.
Keep it from being demonetized.
Well, no, we have to be classy, jeez.
Yeah. Okay, next, speaking of being classy... actually, this quote has nothing to do with being classy, but the next quote is, "Women must not usurp men, or men will rebel. They must remain in their place."
I know for a fact that's a Jordan Peterson quote. It's still fucking stupid, though.
Is that actually a Jordan Peterson quote? 'Cause he's not tagged in it.
Yes. I know for a fact, and I actually watched the video it's from,
Okay.
and the context doesn't really help. Wait, does it not tag the video link?
Nah. Actually, wait, yeah, it does. It's got like a Reddit link at the top. Is that like...
Oh, yeah. Well, it goes to a YouTube video from memory.
Actually, it just goes to a Jordan Peterson quote. Oh, this is the actual quote, so they like misquoted him a bit. It says, "Women, if you usurp men, they will rebel and fail, and you will have to jail them or enslave them." So that's like...
It seems like... See, this is the issue I have, is that he seems to have a very us versus them mindset, instead of trying to get people to just acknowledge each other as people from both sides. Like, that's an issue I have with a lot of... It's like, there was a short period where I... and this is probably going to make me look a little bit, tip fedora.
Ooh.
There was actually a time where I, identified a little bit with MGTOWs. But then I realized that they just did the same, stupid shit that feminists do, where they just... And mind you, when I say feminists, I mean the caricaturish ones, not, normal everyday people who just want to mind their own business and, treat others as they would want to be treated. You know, I feel like that's a good enough moral to live by. You don't need to debate reasons. It's like, I don't feel like you need to try and find excuses to be a shitty person. Do unto others as you'd want done unto yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you can't convince me that you'd want people to treat you like actual shit if your genitals were different than they currently are. Like, that doesn't seem like an adequate response. Like, if people just lived with that mindset as being, the cornerstone of their beliefs, you wouldn't have people trying to, explain reasons as to why... Hey, man... It's like, yeah, I get what he's trying to do with the whole, going back to the other quote involving rape, right? If women weren't so choosy, maybe the onus should be on the people doing the rape.
Yeah, he's
maybe
not...
we should,
He kind of is...
try and...
I think he is saying that. It's just...
It just doesn't seem like a productive way of dealing with that issue.
He's not saying that, if women weren't so choosy, I wouldn't rape them. He's not,
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying that he necessarily supports what they're doing, but he doesn't offer a solution to it.
I mean,
he doesn't suggest to them, maybe you should be a better person so that,
he kind of...
you will be selected.
Actually, let me find the full quote. Because I imagine, in context, he probably would say that, because it would be, quite a boring lecture if it was just that. If it could be accurately reduced to that one sentence.
Because the thing is that, if he can, tell people that stuff, and then follow it up with, people are choosy by nature. This is a sad thing to realize, but even you are. You can tell this because you don't find every single human being you come into attractive. You do, to some degree, have selection. This can be observed in nature. The way that you overcome this, if you have a certain flaw, is to make up for it with a certain benefit. So, if you're ugly as fuck, and you're rich, and you're not a prick, you'll probably find someone. Mind you, maybe not for good reasons, but you'll find somebody. In fact, you'll find plenty of somebodies. Money kind of does that. Maybe not for the best of reasons, but it does work.
Ah, okay.
Beats raping people.
By the way, in the broader context of the actual thing he said, he was firstly with the thing with the rape quote, he was he was alluding to someone else's writing. He said like that was an idea that David Buss presented, and he used like chimpanzees as an example in that paragraph rather than humans.
But even then, chimps are very picky with who they mate with. Oh
boy, it wouldn't be a Puppet Reduction podcast without a phone call.
Right. Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah. Alright, sorry about that. I got a phone call, and we're not really used to resyncing audio and all that. Yeah, we were on the topic of Jordan Peterson and such.
Like, actually, it's like, while it was paused, I read like even more. I read even more of that like article where he said like rape is necessary. It was like talking about like the mentality of evil as well. That's like the broader context of it. So yeah, I guess that's like from the point of view of like what constitutes evil in his mind.
I mean,
it's fair enough actually. That's like if rape isn't evil, what is?
Child rape. I'd say that's pretty evil.
Yeah, but rape is also evil.
Yeah.
Like, you're not... Like, if I was this guy making that Twitter account, and you were Jordan Peterson, and you just said that, I would be able to say that you said rape isn't evil, because you said child rape is more evil, because this guy grossly misquotes.
Yeah, I will agree with you in part, though I do still feel like the issue... I don't know. The biggest criticism I've seen of Jordan is that he doesn't really provide any... I mean, I guess I shouldn't expect it, but like he doesn't really provide solutions to a lot of the stuff he presents. He kind of just gives excuses for them, it feels like. Or rather, people interpret them as excuses. Like what you just said with the rape
that's
thing.
Like... Well, that is what he's trying to do, more or less. He's like... He's a psychologist, not a therapist. He's trying to explain more than trying to solve.
The issue is that he takes it as him giving guidance to people, and the issue is if he doesn't then, like... Bearing in mind, these are the same people who supposedly need someone to tell them in a lecture that they should clean their room, supposedly. Like, I get that that's a meme.
Yeah, what's that about? Yeah, what's that about, that, like, cleaning the room thing? 'Cause I've seen that come up as, like, a meme.
I mean, he basically, you know how Jordan Peterson has a certain way of speaking, which is like very persuasive. Yeah. Basically, what happened was there was a bunch of comments after that lecture that was like, you know, after watching this video, I got myself together and I cleaned my room and I'm really proud of it. And it's like, okay, how old are you? I'm 27. It's like, oh, nice. You're not a disaster of a person. You totally shouldn't be like rushing to try and get involved in the real world.
I mean,
true,
at least that's a step in the right direction,
but that's like saying, my child learned his first word. He's 15. It's a little bit late to the party on that one.
Yeah, but given that he's already at that, like if he was already at that point, you'd still probably
do
all you could to help him.
Though at the same time, you'd have to look at that and go, maybe this person isn't very good at distinguishing nuanced things that I'm implying. Like they won't just look at me explaining something and justify it. I don't know. The issue I have with with a lot of, I guess it's more of an issue with Jordan's following that he's gathered. Because I don't really know the man himself. I just know how he presents himself online, which is enough to make me dubious of him. But
even though that's mostly like how other people present him
just
online.
Looking at his behaviours.
Because although the majority of the stuff isn't by him, it's mostly like kind of like out of context quotes and re-uploads of like cherry picked bits. There's a lot of cherry picking in like the presentation of Jordan Peterson in the media.
Yeah, there is.
I think
it certainly doesn't help, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It just seems like a part of that demographic of people that are like, I wouldn't even call it demographic, of this mindset of like, something can't just be your own fault. It always has to be somebody else's fault. And they'll look at something that Jordan lectures,
Although that's like,
and without being explicitly told,
but
this is something
think,
under
like,
your control, it is your fault you haven't done anything until now. As a result, people just end up being like, oh, then I should redirect my anger towards these people.
but you kind of like, you kind of need to put the blame on something. That's like one of the fundamental assumptions of psychology, because if you just say that everything is because, like, you're depressed because you're depressed.
No,
like,
but you could say
that's
that...
not very helpful. If you just do like a holistic reductionist view to everything, you need to kind of blame it on...
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Something more specific.
Yeah, but you could also argue, like,
helped.
hey, the reason you're depressed is because you're not putting effort into, like, putting yourself out there in the world, and the reason you're not doing that, it might be due to some underlying anxieties, or it could be due to laziness, and any of those things. But because you're unwilling to address any of it, you're willingly undermining your own well-being. And then you're expecting someone else to be at fault for it.
But there's like... there's like plenty of psychological studies that like do place the blame on other people.
I don't think that it's always the case where it's your
like,
own fault. I just think that when it comes to some basic things.
But studies, there are studies that like suggest that conclusion.
What, for people going out and raping, or for?
No, just, like, for depression. There's like there was a study I read a while ago when I was studying psychology about like depression being caused by like the parents. So that's like one conclusion.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
Because that's what Jordan Peterson does. He just like he spent his life ostensibly just reciting studies to get to being Dr. Jordan Peterson. He had to like spend like, what is it, like
5 years after your like initial degree. So in other words, I don't really think it's worthwhile.
So like 9 years. So he spent like at least 9 years like just like citing other people's research, and now he's like going on to give talks where he just cites other people's research, except he doesn't like. Does he cite his sources?
The only
I guess
thing
that's kind of reprehensible if he doesn't.
The only thing I've seen him cite is the Bible. That's the only thing that really sticks out.
Oh.
Because he'll quote the Bible for stuff a lot. I know someone actually goofed on him a while ago because they were like, they did like a parody of his description of what a trap is. But then I think I remember us talking to someone. I'm not gonna drop his name in here though. I half did.
Even though you sort of already did.
Yeah, but no one
like,
but him
gave
will
the first
know.
syllable of it.
But no, I remember it was like some quote from him that was like, hold on. I wish I could find it. God damn it. Can I not? That is very unfortunate. That makes me sad. I really wanted to quote it. It was a good quote. It was something to the effect of like how traps are man's way of trying to harness chaos or some shit. Oh no, I swore. No. But
oh no, the seal is broken. We've opened Pandora's box of bad language. Now all the other swear words will like come through.
It's, I don't know. I don't really like people who go too much into the department of not blaming the person at all, because when it gets to a point where it makes the person unwilling to put the effort in. Because I feel like to a degree you do need to have some like self-blame to be motivated to be better than you are. Because otherwise just like, I'm perfectly fine, it's just the world that needs to be different. And you see that a lot in like social justice.
There was a study I saw a while ago that said that like the ability to self-blame is like a binary intrinsic trait that you can't like teach. It's like people either have an external locus of control or an internal locus of control. And if they have an external locus of control, they're like, you just can't really like learn to truly blame yourself. So there's like for those kind of people, there's nothing really helpful with that.
But I guess self-awareness.
Actually, I guess, like, there is still like a true blame.
The thing is, if you're self-aware about it, then you can.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I suppose, but we're talking
we
heavily
are.
abstract
We are
stuff
getting
here.
into territory that.
Yeah, and neither of us are qualified to kind of give any objective statements on this.
I also, what was it? I don't know how I feel about. Wait, let me see. I'm actually just going to his Twitter at the moment.
Yeah.
Never mind. This was ages ago. There's no way I'm going to reach it. I know he made some commentary about atheism ages ago as well, and how it's somehow related to postmodernism. It's like,
oh boy,
it's not that complicated. It just means that I don't think that any of the main religions are true, or any religion, because it seems really unlikely and there isn't evidence. It's like, yeah.
My review on my view on religion is like, there's a lot of stuff in religion that's helpful, but like, I don't necessarily think it's true. I don't really care whether it's true or not. I just like use my own moral compass to judge which teachings
that's the thing. Is like, I feel like that's even an issue with Jordan in the sense that like people look at what he says, and they don't necessarily like. I feel like they don't think about it themselves. They'll just directly quote him instead. It's kind of an issue with quotes in general, is a lot of people like to recycle them and not actually try and understand them.
Yeah. Especially with like Jordan Peterson, because he gives like 45-minute talks or longer, and like that's like, you need to kind of hear the full thing to get the full context for what he's saying. That's like that's the quote he wants you to process, like from the start of that like script to the end of it. That's the full experience with all the context he wants you to have. And like anything less than that's like misquoting him almost, or it's like less helpful than the full text in terms of like unpacking his intentionality.
Though to be fair, you could make that argument about anybody who does lectures.
And I would make that argument.
I guess if you could like then pull out
I think that you should listen to everything someone's written in terms of like understanding, because you wouldn't read one page of a book and say I don't understand it.
No, I guess you wouldn't. I guess maybe if you read like a chapter and you're like, this is boring, then I guess that's like a better.
But even then, that's like a chapter from you're starting from the start of the book as opposed to like receiving a bit out of context that someone else has like taken to fulfill some kind of gratification to them. It's like fulfill some kind of agenda they have.
Yeah, no, I'm stumped, I'll admit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're burnt out on this Jordan Peterson thing. Do you have like another topic you want to wheel in?
I kind of want to goof. Actually, I guess no, that's too specific. No, I was gonna go. If you look at the good old politics channel thing I put in there, I was gonna talk about that, but that seems a little bit too specific to a person. Yeah, it's like, oh, look at the fucking soy face, and immediately does it. Actually, no, was it immediately? No, he did it 4 months later.
Oh.
Actually,
I must have been taking too much soy during that.
That's what happens when.
I love this whole soy meme.
There's some basis in reality, though the issue with it is that your body just processes the whatever it is that resembles estrogen. I think it's called phytoestrogens. Your body just ends up breaking it down into testosterone.
Yeah. Well, I just think it.
Oh yeah, no, it is very funny. It's like a funny pattern. Though to be honest, I think the only reason people do the soy face is because cartoon characters do it, and then they replicate it.
But does life imitate art, or does art imitate life? did the cartoonists see the soy boys and like want to make fun of them?
I honestly think that smile originally just came from them doing like a gasping expression, and people are like, wow, that looks kind of cute. And then they used that in stuff like Steven Universe, which was then inspired by older cartoons and anime and all that. It's kind of an issue with media becoming more incestuous and taking less inspiration from real life.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. I should really, like... God, that's just making me think, like, I should go out more. Because a lot of my stuff that I draw is very much just inspired by other artists.
Yeah, I always try and, like, kind of sample stuff from outside of my comfort zone as much as I can. I've decided I'm like gonna like try and avoid watching anime and playing video games for a bit, just to like broaden my sphere of influence by experiencing like other.
See, I have the opposite problem. I don't play games or watch anime like that much. I'll like occasionally load up Worms.
Well, then you'd probably benefit from doing so.
I don't know. I have like a weird psychological block in place where if I try to play games, I just can't. It's kind of related to my real life, though. I don't want to go too much into it here.
Okay, fine.
But it just boils down to like a feeling of wasting time and not being productive. Okay. Yeah, it's weird because it happens even on days where I've like. I think it's because I realised that I could be using my time better. It's like, I can't even play a game like FTL anymore, just because it's like... If it's not a game I can't just straight away jump into, I can't get invested in it. Like, I can't play the original Fallout, for example. Or... even stuff like Kerbal Space Program I have trouble getting into now, and I used to love that game.
I think my view on like kind of the productiveness of playing video games is like, it's like if it's like enriching for me to go forward with it, I view that as like a productive use of time. If it's like philosophically or logically enriching to some extent, I can like justify doing that. But I don't like. That's why I don't really play like shooters anymore, like online shooters, because it's like they're all super vapid, and I feel like that's a waste of time. But playing something like Nier Automata, that's like, I think that was productive, because I learned a lot of stuff, and they like changed the way I think about stuff. And especially me being like a professional artist, for lack of a better word, or like at least angling to go into that field. I kind of want to be as enriched as I can.
Yeah, no, I mean, for you that would make sense to like be taking in a variety of different media, or at the very least, what was it? Gaining a more insight and stuff like games that have a message to them rather than just being like a roguelike game, for example.
Yeah.
It's usually just no matter how hard you try, you're still fucked. As a person who played and nearly beat Darkest Dungeon, I can tell you it's just frustrating, and it makes you dislike the game immensely. I think that was like the last straw for me, because I put I think I put like 100 hours into that game, and I remember that I'd like said, hey, friend I'm not going to name on this show, let's go and do a speed run of Darkest Dungeon. Whoever beats it within the week wins £50 off the other person. And we both got to like almost the end, and we both got our teams wiped because there's a random event that just curb stomps you out of the blue. And what we found out was that the final boss, you have to beat them 3 times with 3 different teams. And once you do that, you just get everything deleted. You just get the intro scene playing again, and you lose. That's it. It's such a kick in the taint. And I tried watching people who professionally played it, And even then, they were like most of the time just going, alright, well let's just hope that the odds are on our side. Nope, I just lost a character, god damn it.
Well, that's still like a lesson in futility. It still teaches you that like life won't always be
but in a
fair.
game that's not very fun if it's like most of the time the game mechanics feel irrelevant, because it's like, sure, you can do all the perfect like moves, have great party composition. That still doesn't change the fact though that the second boss of the game can on its first turn just pretty much party wipe you from full health, which is pretty frustrating.
Fine.
Yes.
Do you think games
or
should
at the very least, I think that they should be compelling. They should be something that it should be something that encourages the player to keep going. It shouldn't actively try and force you to not play. And I don't mean it in terms of like it'll kill you and be teasing you like Dark Souls 3. I mean it in terms of what was it? Like those games that are like the hardest game ever, number 20 or something. Like that's not compelling. It's just like, in fact, no, that one is kind of compelling, but for a not great reason. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm an advocate of like kind of games representing like the entire emotional spectrum of like things that art can elicit. Like ostensibly one of my favourite games of all time, Metal Gear Solid 2, is like mostly kind of unfun. Like it's definitely not the most fun Metal Gear Solid game, because it's like thematically it's kind of about disenfranchisement, which is a cool like ludonarrative thing, and like in like a metatextual sense, it's like it kind of makes sense to be unfun, because it's like deconstructing kind of the nature of playing video games as a whole. But it's also horror games are good, because those are ostensibly not fun.
They give you an adrenaline
spooky,
rush, and that makes it enjoyable.
Yeah.
Oh,
still tell,
definitely, yeah.
Interesting stories and stuff.
But then you have stuff like... Actually, I was about to say FNAF, but that does kind of have an interesting story, so I can't really fault it there. Its fandom is shit, said a person on the internet for the umpteenth time. Right. How far are we into the show? I think we're almost... Oh shit, we're actually going over a little bit.
33 minutes. So we're over...
that's not a problem.
We always go over.
Do you want to... Yeah, I think we should wrap it up.
Should we, like,
I think this is a bit of a lower energy episode than the other ones.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of... I don't know, I think it's higher energy. It's like, it's more aggressive in tone, because of the whole, like... We kind of got into more... This is, like, our most argumentative, I think. Because we've been, like, debating stuff, as opposed to just, like, just chilling.
I mean, I felt a bit low energy, but it might just be because of how I've been feeling these last couple days.
I was low energy at the start. I've kind of, like... I've kind of got pumped up, I think.
I've maintained a constant. Right. Okay, well, I guess we just... I don't know why we had that, like, long pause.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope you... Yeah,
it's like introspecting. Seeing, like, thinking if this podcast was artistically valid, like the games we... Like...
The answer may surprise you. No.
Dungeon?
No. Find out next week.
Find out next week.
Puppet Ball Z.